here. And we have everybody but Mark. Have we heard anything, Mark?
Yeah.
So we'll just kind of assume that he's probably coming. Everybody on their agenda, and we have an addition to the agenda here.
Under personnel.
Under personnel, one item. Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda? I have a motion from Michaela.
Second.
Second from Cheryl. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Okay, then we will move right to approve and correct minutes from the April 14th, 2015. In our packet. I'll make a motion that we approve.
Second.
A minute. A second by Kellen. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Okay, we are down to financial reports, and we have March 2015 Treasurer's Report. And we'll go over the Treasury Report, and then let's go to the bills after that. Just like it says here.
Cheryl, remember Cheryl is doing all of the bills and stuff now.
Yep, so the Treasurer's Report, everybody got the Treasurer's Report? Any questions on that? If there's none, do we have a motion to approve the Treasurer's Report? So, a motion from Lou. I'll make a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Okay, then audit approval of bills. Cheryl?
I went through all of the bills, including the additional bills, and I didn't see anything out of the ordinary. The only questions I had brought with the issue that, not an issue, but the item that we did get some more notebooks. So we have 17 more new notebooks that are licensed and being used.
Good.
And a question or two on some items that I didn't know what they were, and they were for the stadium. And we have monies in holding to be spent on the stadium, and those were covered from that money, so it didn't come out of general or capital, nothing, just came out of the stadium fund.
And the monies in holding came from the public,
Yes,
right?
Correct.
Yep.
yes.
Okay.
Or the, and the FEMA grant.
And the FEMA grant,
FEMA grant.
okay.
So I would move that we approve payment of bills.
I have a motion from Cheryl to pay the bills.
I'll second it.
I have a second from Heidi. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Okay, now we're on business. Anybody here that has any comments on the business, we will have after each item, have an area where we'll entertain the public for comments. So number one is review and consider approval of resolution adjusting educational programs and positions effective for the 2015-2016 school year.
I'll go through those. There is a resolution in front of you. They're pretty well listed out. One of the reductions is just retirement. She will not be replaced, so that is a true savings to the district at this point. The elementary will be more of a 3-section elementary at this time, unless our enrollment changes somehow. But that's the savings of $63,000. We are going to reduce 3 paraprofessionals. They're really coming from the elementary school, but 2 of those were retirements. So we're just not filling those 2 places, and later on in the agenda, there is a reduction in 1 para. There will be some switching between the elementary school and the high school with pairs to fill the positions. But again, it's really a total reduction of those certain amount of hours that we're reducing. As the board will find out in future meetings, we're going to add a little bit more time to some of the elementary pairs just to make up. So it's really a reduction in overall hours that pairs are serving, but it does end up kind of like 3 positions. But again, just 1 actual person will be reduced. The rest are just being filled in from resignations. Principal at the elementary school had a reduction of $16.25. Secondary staff reductions, and we'll get to that in a little bit, is $12,375. There's another resolution that the board will approve. This is an on-requested leave. I will tell the board that although this is on-requested leave, we do have a grant that we're hoping to get. We're 99.9% sure we'll get it. And that will probably bring the staff member back to more than where the staff member is at right now. So in essence, we're going to reduce, but if we don't follow our timelines for any unrequested leaves, if we were not to get the grant for some reason, I don't believe that'll happen, we wouldn't have the opportunity to go back and do an unrequested leave at this time. So it's about a 0.2, and that's really has been caused because of lack of students in a particular class. That's why the reduction was in place. Resource training solutions, as board members, I was going to reduce them last year and ran into some problems with the charter that they had, and this year we have followed their procedures, and now we are going to reduce resource training and solutions. And then photocopy position, we have 4 hours of the photocopy position left. We took 1 hour last year. We're going to take 2 more this year to reduce that down, and I do expect that next year you'll hear me come back and that position will be gone next year. But at least for now, we want to just transition into those positions. The total reductions then come to $116,332. I will tell the board that for the most part, we're getting very close on reductions from where the administrators and I feel we need to be. So I would guess that as we continue to go, unless we have a real decrease in student populations, the reductions will be very selective in future years. That's at least my goal. Questions?
What was the goal for this year's for reductions?
I didn't really have a set goal for it. There's nothing that I did. We looked at what we thought we should reduce to get things to where they need to be. And these are the reductions we came up with. I didn't come up with a set amount. To tell you the truth, I would have requested these reductions based on my recommendations from my principals and our discussions, regardless of where we were in the budget right now.
Well, I just remember going through in those exercises when I was on the finance committee on if we do this, how that's going to affect everything, and has that exercise been gone through? And
well, I would make these reductions if we had.
I know, but what is the number that we need to get at so that we can sustain a bottom line of what?
I believe right now with the changes that I'm going to make because of the technology levy, and the reductions that we're having, my projections show that we will make it to the end of our current referendum. And that's really my goal, is to make sure. Now, having said that, if I thought that these reductions were out of line or that they couldn't be done and that they hurt our student achievement tremendously, I'd be telling the board that, and they probably would be on this list right now.
I guess it would just be nice to see what those were so that we have some idea for the projections like we've had in the past.
And I can certainly bring a presentation to the board and show you where the projections for the total piece will be. It does involve changing for the technology levy piece and doing the things that we had talked about there. But I can certainly bring those projections to the board.
It'd just be nice to show where we are, where these reductions are going to happen, and what is the outcome or the net outcome of it. Just because we're doing a reduction doesn't mean that we're getting to the point where we need to be. At least I can't see that. Maybe you can, but I can't.
Well, and I've looked at the projection, the software that we've done, and certainly I can present that to the board. There's a couple things going on. Number one is that I finally think that if my projections go the way they are, I know that we certainly have reduced our staff development, for instance. We have certainly reduced our also our curriculum budget, just to get things in line. If everything works the way that I'm hoping it will work, then I think we can start looking at adding some things back to that, because I think it's sorely needed. The problem is that we're also walking into a 2-year contract, in which case we'll also be negotiating with all of our groups. So I'm reluctant to add at this point until I get a better idea of where all that is going to settle out, because that could have a tremendous effect. And right now, if the state sits where it's at, they're not giving us enough money even to do the steps and lanes and instrument, for instance, in our teacher contract.
And I concur on that. It's just that I would just like to see where we are, where these reductions are going to bring us, and how we projected that out, so that we have some validity to know why we're reducing it. because somebody's gonna come back and say, well, we really need this here person for whatever, so well, there's no, I don't see any merit on this reduction, how it shows in the big picture. Okay?
There will be differences of opinion on that.
No, but I mean, but we as a board, since we're
Sure.
having the resolution, if it's in front of us as a decision, we need to have that information so that it's not we're just doing it.
If it weren't for the technology, and I will bring that information, I'll bring you a chart and show how my projections look like they'll work, so I'll bring that forward. Again, part of what we need to do, because our reserve fund, our unencumbered reserve fund is probably less than 200,000 right now. That's still what is driving everything at this point. If it wasn't for the technology levy, what we're looking at that, our projections would be bleak.
No, and I concur
Yeah.
on this one.
I'll bring some information so I can show you on at least a graph on what my projections look like they're going to be over the course of the next.
I know you only can go
10
a few
years.
years, you only can go a few years out because there's so many things that are gonna be varying, but we have to have some starting point, especially with the new dollars. I mean, we've gone through those exercises before where it showed us our projections, but now since we got the new levy, how is that gonna affect our different programmings and stuff like that?
Yeah, and I can certainly bring, if we wouldn't be making the changes that we're going to be making with everything that's coming in, my projection showed probably 4 years statutory operating debt at the most. And I can show you graphs that illustrate the difference between the two, and if we had made the adjustments that we were going to make.
Yep.
I'll bring that at the next meeting.
So today we're dealing with the proposed reductions that you're thinking of.
Yep.
And then you will be coming back to us with the complete budget of how it lays out.
I'll bring back kind of what Mark's looking
That'll be
for,
what you were talking about.
what it will kind of look like over the course of the next number of years if nothing unexpectedly happens.
Mhm.
So I will bring that forward. But I would tell you again that these reductions I would make
So these,
regardless.
my interpretation from what you're saying is this is, if your job is to manage the school in the most efficient manner, these are cuts that you would make because of that, if there wasn't necessarily a monetary issue.
If there wasn't a monetary issue,
You would be looking
I
at it anyway.
would probably still be looking at these.
Any other questions of the board? Okay, let's open it up to the public. Anybody? Okay. We have a resolution at hand. It's a resolution, so we're looking for a motion if somebody wants to proceed at this point. Was that, so moved? So we have a motion from Lou, and I'll make a second. So we have a second from myself. This is a resolution, so Linda, if you could do the roll call vote.
Kella? Aye. Mark?
Aye.
Randy? Aye. Lou?
Aye.
Bruce?
Aye.
Cheryl?
Aye.
And as mentioned, at the next meeting, I'll bring back some illustrations that I can show the board so that they have a better understanding on how the changes will affect everything. I think that'd be a good thing for the public to see on the board.
Okay, so number 2 is review and consider approval of the 5-year capital plan.
You do have a new 5-year plan in front of you, and I did make a couple changes, and I'll kind of explain that when we get to that point. We've met a number of times in committee, and certainly any of the committee members can speak up to it. I'm going to kind of go through it probably for the first time since I've been here. We are able to get a lot more of the things done that we really wanted to get done. And again, it is due partly because of our change in the budget, but also the technology levy, which will enable us to move some things from our capital, or our general into the capital, and some things from our general into the technology levy itself. So that's how a lot of this, and I'll bring better numbers for you at the next meeting. If we just kind of take a look, the first part is health and safety. That changes every year. It's dependent upon really the needs of the district, and lots of times we're dictated to have to pick something from a fire marshal, for instance. If that happens, then we levy the community for those particular pieces. We're always a year behind on that particular piece, so it's hard to say. We do feel that for most of the time, we have about $60,000 or so of things that we automatically levy for on a yearly basis. Then we fill it in more as we find out more about what we have to have. When you take a look at improvement to grounds, I'll just go through a few things. Playground slide at the elementary was really in tough shape. It's a safety issue. We felt that we needed to replace that. If you jump down to the resurface, and I'm not going to go through all these, so if there's questions on them, please just ask. Resurface the track. We did bring some people in. Yeah.
Maybe you could go through all of them. Would you mind?
I
Would you
don't-
guys mind, us on the facilities group has heard all this, of the,
I have no issues. I'll go through them all. Pipe lane, gravel, and gates. We had planned on tarring kind of the fire lane by the baseball field and stuff. Of all our priorities, that was one of the least ones. And another priority did come up that we felt was more important, and that's our track. Right now, we have a number of cracks in our track that really need to be fixed. So we had an option of just filling them with kind of a tar basis and going on, but we didn't feel like that was the best thing to do in the end after discussing it with some people that Max had worked with. So we came up with a way of fixing those cracks. And they don't tear out everything and dig down into the ground or anything, but they do take layers off and they expand it and go over it so it's kind of a stretched surface. And they do guarantee the cracks that they fix for at least 5 years. And so it'll be a much more permanent fix, which will extend the life of the track. So we'll fix the major cracks that we have, tear out the upper surface, replace that surface for those, and then we'll also, it's a spray piece that goes all the way over. It's kind of like a sealer over the whole track, and then they replace the lines and all of that stuff. But of course, that's a lot more expensive. But we think that it will extend the life of the track out considerably, because there will come a time eventually that you will have to replace that track. When that time comes, then I think that we'll come to the board and we'll talk about issues with the football field and a number of things. But at least for right now, we think this will take us a number of years down the road. Now, it did come to $56,000. The way that we're going to pay for that is, number one, is that we put $20,000 into it, because originally we just figured we'd replace or fix the cracks. And question number one was $20,000 towards the track. Okay, so that's $20,000. We're also going to just put $1,000 into the gate by the fire lane, because right now they're using it like a road, and we're going to gate it off so that we only use it for what it's intended, which is a fire lane. We'll probably smooth down a little bit to make sure that it's not as bumpy as it is, but right now we won't tar. We're going to move that further down into our years in the plan. I think we'll still get there, but we're not going to worry about that, at least right now. So the $18,000 or the $17,900 will then go towards the track. And we'll take another $18,532 out of our capital budget, and that's how we get to the $56,432. Now, I don't think we'll forget the fire lane, but we're going to move the importance of it down into later years. Any questions on that? Yep.
What is the replacement of the entire track?
And Max told me, and I knew that somebody would ask me.
200 and something or $300,000, it's terrible. Well, not terrible. It's
It
really expensive.
was considerably more. I'll bring the exact cost, because I know Max didn't get it, and I meant to ask him that question, I did not, but I'll bring the exact cost of that back to the board at the next meeting.
Lou said it was
That'll work.
180.
I think it was 180 when they first put it.
When they first put it in, I think, but it's risen considerably. I would say probably between $200,000 and at least $300,000, probably more on the high end of that.
What did we resurfaced that a few years ago? What was the cost of that, and what did we do at that time?
Wasn't here.
I saw it, I thought it was more crack filling.
No, they resurfaced it. They
It was
resurfaced.
resurfaced.
My guess is you probably just, well, I shouldn't say. I don't know if you retook the top off and re-put another top on, or if you just sealed it. That I'd have to check
Well,
on.
I think they sealed, they fixed the cracks, but they put a
Yeah, they
whole
put
layer
another
over the
whole
top.
layer on, you bet, and then repainted it, yeah.
Wasn't it around $25,000?
So it would have been considerably more than
I
that.
can't remember, I think it was more than that, but.
One of the issues that we had,
Relay to life.
relay for like, because I know that was a big deal that.
Yeah, you couldn't walk on it, it wouldn't be going.
That's probably when it was.
What year?
And then
The 10 years?
This is, yeah, no,
Oh, no,
it's 9 years, I
before
think we did the first one on, okay.
What?
And after that, we had to take off, so it's probably like 9 years. This is
It was before that we researched it, but
I know when Max, our committee, brought up what the cost of replacing that whole track was, then he left that meeting and started to get people in on tracks to find out what we could do to get the most longevity without too much cost. And it was quite a while while we put this all together. So last couple of years, I can remember it's been in every facility meeting and we have not been able to do anything. And so all of us in the back of our mind knew that we were running up against a point where if we don't get this thing fixed, we are going to replace the whole thing, and that would be disgusting if we can't do it.
I think Mark's question is just the same question we kind of talked about at our meeting, is replacement versus fixing versus filling in cracks. You know, and I think the committee, after discussing, and I'll bring that, I'm sorry, Mark, I should have probably had those numbers with me today, and I'll bring those numbers to the next meeting. The board can certainly put this off to the next meeting and approve it at that time if they desire.
No, I don't want, because I think you guys did the due diligence of getting into the plan. My first blush at it is again, the sticker shock of this fixing it. And, boy, we can use that money elsewhere for the number of events that it really has to, for the.
Yeah, I think part of the fear is that the longer you let go, if you just keep repairing those cracks, the issue doesn't disappear.
No, I agree.
And that's certainly what we'll do, but I'll make sure that during at least my reports, I give a little bit more information on that at the next meeting. And that's, you have to remember, the next meeting is only a week away.
That's fine, I just, like I said, it's more of a sticker shock than anything.
Hey, Bob? All right. I think I remember, it was either at the facilities committee or with the Max or something, there was another upgrade that you could do to the track. It was like $115,000. It wasn't the full-blown thing, but it was 115, so I don't know if that helps anything.
And I think Max did have the people come out and take a look at it, and that was a filling. But like I said, at the next meeting, Max will also be here, and we'll have a little bit more information just to fill the board in on that, and the community.
When you say number of years, how many years are you talking does this get you?
Well, the cracks themselves,
No, this resurfacing.
the resurfacing, I'm thinking it was 15 years for just kind of the guarantee on that. The cracks alone were 5, but it would certainly extend it more than, I'm guessing, even that, I'm thinking. I think when Max, we talked about it, it's worth the piece with that. But like I said, I'll bring
It's
those.
not just good for 5 years, you're thinking it's going to be good for 5
I think the track itself is going to be good. The warranty on the cracks alone is just 5 years, but that doesn't include any new cracks that
Right.
could occur. But really, to fix those things, you got to get down into the ground where the problem exists. That's,
You got to move out of Minnesota then first.
Yeah.
well, most places in tracks will have eventually cracks. So, but
The state of Minnesota hasn't figured out on that.
So I think you're just going to need to keeping it. You just don't want it to get to the point where you have no option other than to replace it. Gates by the softball field, we're going to put some nice gates in there. Again, I was at the softball game the other day, and we have just the chains. And at least once, a staff member talked to me about the fact that somebody almost ran through the chain, and I was standing there, and lo and behold, the truck almost ran through the chain. And I think I was told, see, I told you that. So we're going to put some gates in that everybody can see, and there's no doubt that they're there, and we'll seal things off much easier, and that's what that is for. I think it's long overdue. We have the 5th payment for the grandstand is next year. And after that, that $5,000 is gone. But we did, if you notice, in future years, put an additional $1,000 in there just to make sure that we keep that grandstand where it needs to be. Replace the fence at the stadium, that's $2,500, and that's one of the reasons you got an adjustment. I had put in for the $1,300 for the cost of the materials, because we're gonna put new fencing in where they've taken down that chain link, but I forgot to put in for the labor, which is another $1,200, so we're looking at about $2,500 to do that. Now, I do want to again explain to the community that the district has put a minimum amount into a stadium, which is going to be about a $1.5 million stadium. We put in $5,000 every year for a total of $25,000. We'll have put in this $2,500 and a little bit for the sprinkler system as far as monitoring it and that, but very minimal in regards to the amount. And that really was raised by the FEMA grant and the community itself. That really has not come from the school district, just a minimal amount. But we do finish that off, at least as far as the 5,000 next year is the last year for that. Replace the fence by the stadium is $2,500. Technology and infrastructure. We had a lot of discussion about the E-rate and what that can do for us. The fact that if we get the dollars, we'll have to pay back 30% of whatever dollars we get. Whether we go with the infrastructure in regards to the cable that runs from the elementary to the high school, we still feel that if we're going to build up our infrastructure and we get money that just allows us to pay back 30% of the money, that we should put that money in there and try to pay it off for 2 years. So, but I would say I'm not going to say what that's for yet. If we decide in the end, or the board decides that we're not going to go down that road, then that money would just go back into the reserve fund for capital. But for now, we wanted to budget for it for the next couple of years.
Well, we kind of talked, it's going down some road. We just don't know which one.
That would be it. We're not sure what we're going to do
Yeah.
yet, but we do have plenty of needs for infrastructure in the building for upcoming years as we use more and more technology. If the infrastructure isn't in place, we have slow machines, students and staff members get frustrated with that, and it doesn't work as effectively as we would like. So if we're going to get the dollars, we want to be able to use it and build up. We just don't know what yet. Okay, if you get down to the elementary improvement in buildings, we're going to put some water fountains in the next couple of years. A couple of them, those new bottle-filled water fountains are really nice for the students. They can fill up water bottles. They're really nice. I think the staff that's seen them, I think they would say that they're important for our students. Improvements, $3,000 this year for the elementary school. That's going to go up to $6,000 in the future. Boiler repairs continue to stay constant. We put in about $10,000 for the high school, $10,000 for the elementary. Sometimes we use it, sometimes we don't, but it's still a constant piece because the boilers are getting old. If you go to the second page, I'm going to repair the elementary gym floor. If anybody's ever looked, and I don't know how to describe it, but it's, you go in the main doors and you go to the end of the gym and kind of on the left-hand side, it's almost a wavy piece. The boards aren't, they're kind of like, they're warped. So what we're going to do, we're not going to sand down the whole section this year. All we're going to do is cut that one piece out and replace it. We'll certainly repaint it and varnish it and do it every year, but if you look, you're going to see a notice in a difference, at least until we do the same thing with the middle school gym that we're going to look at doing at the high school, which is sand it all down and repaint the lines and refinish it. But for now, we just at least get the safety issue completed. So that's going to cost $900. Entrance to the elementary school. We've talked about safety for many years, and we've talked about buzzing systems and all those. The elementary school is a unique building in regards to the district because we really do have a way of making that building very secure. In the new buildings, even in the older buildings, a lot of districts are remodeling so that everything has to go through the main office. What we're going to do for the elementary school is we're going to put a wall in at the main entrance with doors. It'll be a glass wall with doors just like the main entrance doors. But in order to get buzzed into those doors, because that's where the buzzing system will be, it won't be at the main outside doors. It'll be at the doors, that'll be the wall that'll be just past where the door is in the office. So anyone that comes in will have to go into the office, get a visitor's badge in order to get buzzed into those second doors. It's really going to be a secure system, I think. It's like anything else when you have a secure piece, there is going to be, they're going to have to come in and they have to get a badge, but they're supposed to do that now. This ensures that anybody that goes into that elementary school will have to go through the main entrance before they go into the building. But that does come to $23,000. We're looking at some ways on getting that cut back a little bit. And so we're going to continue to work on that. We're going to tighten our budget as much as we can to try to kind of get that $23,000 at a reasonable thing. But we believe that the elementary school could be a very secure building doing that.
And David had it also figured on some of the stuff we were going to spend anyway.
Yes.
By
Well, the
putting
budget
this in-
system and some of those other things,
Yeah.
and this will kind of take care of that.
Kind of compensated for a lot of it, but it turned out it was just more secure.
And our camera system right now is working fairly well at the elementary school, so we had planned to put some money into that. Instead, we'll use those dollars to go into the security piece at the main entrance first, and then we'll get caught up with the cameras later, because right now they seem to be working pretty well in the elementary school. Yeah, high school's a little different on that. Okay, backboard, let's replace one backboard in the elementary school. Sink basins, if you've ever been by those sink basins in the elementary, I think there's 5 of them, something like that. But they're the round big basins and.
Bird baths.
Yes. When we looked at replacing all of those, they were $5,000 a piece. Okay, but we did, and at least our first step is going to be repair one. We picked one, almost the worst one. We're going to repair that for $3,000. We're going to see how that works before we make any other decisions. So that's why the $3,000 in there is to repair that one, and as many as we can. But we're going to do the worst one first to decide before we make any other purchases of new systems. It's really hard to put anything else in where those things are at that will allow as many students to go in there and wash their hands at one time. We looked at options and we just couldn't find any good ones. Okay, so we're going to put $3,000 into repair at this point. Again, water fountain in 16 and 17 for the high school. I think they put one in, but they're going to need one more. And they're going to use some of their dollars this year to put one in this year again, I believe. Bathroom stalls at the high school, they just need to put some doors on them, so that's the cost of it. You know, kids just don't want to use toilets without having doors on them. So we do need to do a better job in getting down that road. Remodel technology office, one of the things that we're looking at is right now, they're just using kind of regular tables, which can really be awkward. If you've ever worked on equipment and you're either bending over too far or you're reaching up too high, it can really be troublesome to backs and all of that. So for $600, we think we can put a countertop in that's going to be at the right level for them to work on their equipment. Improvements to the building are just going to be $6,000 for the high school. Boiler repairs again, $10,000. Gym floor repair, $25,000. We're looking at sanding it down. I think there's got to be a lot of discussion about how many lines go into that main gym. I think between the fire department and activities need to have a discussion about that. I know that Lori and Max are having that discussion now, because if you look at our main floor, there's a lot of lines in there. So at least to make it so that it's easier to tell what is what. You know, whether it's colors and lines or whatever, but they're going to sand it all down and redo that gym floor. And I think when it's all done, I think it'll look really good.
Do we have any idea, are we going to be able to do it this year? Or
we're not sure yet. It depends. We've already scheduled an awful lot for our gym spaces, from camps to our cleaning that we need to get done. We're going to do the best we can to get it done this year, but it's going to be a really tight schedule.
But it may be next year.
It may be next year. Yeah, but you know, I really don't want to get rid of people who have already planned on using our facilities. You know, so I want to keep those in place, so we'll do our best to get in, but if it doesn't, we'll just move the $25,000 to the next year and redo the gyms then. We'd love to get them done this summer though. I know that for sure the elementary one will be done. That will be done very quickly, so that'll be done before next year for sure. Paint the VOTEC building. It just is time. We haven't spent a lot of money in that VOTEC building, in a great part because we haven't had any money to spend in the VOTEC building. But they're going to wash it down this summer and they're going to paint it. And then I had mentioned that we had the Office of Civil Rights in, and they took a look at our facilities in the high school, and told us what we have to do to bring it in compliance. For the most part, all of it's paperwork and a few things around the sinks. For instance, I didn't realize that sinks in the bathrooms, in order to be handicap compliant, you have to have all the lines covered with insulation. Reason being is because if somebody in a wheelchair rolls into it and you're running hot water, you could burn their legs. So we've got to cover those. Those are minor things. We need to put some handicap or ADA compliant or handicap accessible signs on our things. But when we got to the VOTEC building, if anybody's seen those bathrooms, you know that we've done some work with them, but now we need to make one handicap accessible. So in order to do that, we need to actually cut out about a half a block, put a new door frame in, put a new door in, do a little bit of work around, and we'll probably go from possibly one urinal to or 2 urinals to 1, just to make it handicap accessible, and we'll make both bathrooms unisex so that they can use whichever bathroom they need to use. But that does need to be done. Okay, test steam traps, that's an ongoing thing. We have issues, we have to replace them, so we've just consistently put $2,000 across. Sometimes we've used it, sometimes we haven't. If we don't use it, it goes back into the reserve fund for capital. Repair roofs, even though we're doing roofing projects, we still do have issues. Our roofs continually get older and they pull away from the edges or whatever, so we're going to keep $10,000 for repair roofs in place. And then you have a total there. When you get down to facilities equipment, for the elementary school, $1,500. They use that money however they wish. That's really up to the building themselves. Custodial equipment, $850, that's remained consistent, we haven't increased it. One big change that we are making is we're going to move some of our dollars that we use for curriculum from our general fund into the capital fund. We moved about 5,000 last year. We're going to move a total of 60,000 total this year. That includes the 5,000 that we moved. That frees up our general fund. Really the things that we purchase with curriculum are really capital dollars anyway. So we're going to move that into at least part of it. We're usually around anywhere between 80 and 100,000 usually for curriculum and software. This will free up the general ed dollars, and then again, it is an area that I think we need to help get caught up in some areas for. Even the last 2 years, I would like to get to the point where I help the ones that I've had to cut the budget for a little bit for the last 2 years, and then this year also. I think it's important. I think we've given them anything but too much money for that. So I'd like to start seeing if we can beef that up a little bit. Okay, so that's curriculum. You'll see the same thing at the high school when we get to that point. Auditorium, sound, and board, we need to replace it. That's $3,000. Community Ed will also throw some money down into that pot. If you take a look at auditorium sound system upgrade, Max has taken a look at that, and really that's going to be a much more expensive piece. That's $25,000, but we're moving that down the road for 1 year. High school's getting some teaching chairs, or teacher chairs, 3 classrooms of tables. A lot of teachers at the high school are going from the old traditional desks more to tables. They think that works better for group work and a number of different things versus rounding up the desks themselves. We won't throw those desks out. We do have teachers that like to use the desk more, and we'll just put them in storage, and when a desk needs to be replaced, then we'll just move one. But that won't even do 3 rooms of tables, I don't think. So we'll do as much as we can with the dollars, and then they'll come back the following year for that. Okay, teacher chairs, desks. Lunchroom tables. One of the things we are going to do at the high school is get rid of the old chairs and tables at the high school and the lunchroom. I can tell you that our custodians spend an immense amount of time when they're cleaning, putting the tables up, moving them off to the side, and then moving. And that's the easy part, because it's the chairs that are really the pain for our custodians. They use a lot more time. We're not overstaffed in custodians, I promise you. This will free up some of their time. So we're going to replace all the tables. We'll use some of the tables in other areas. We'll auction off the tables that we don't use. All of the chairs, Lori will need in other classrooms. Again, as we move desks in, or tables in instead of desks, they need chairs for those, we'll use those chairs to go for that, or to replace chairs that wear out. And again, if there's any questions, just stop and ask if anybody has one. Band chairs, they say they need a specific band chair, we're going to get those for them. Band stands, they also need some of those, so $600 for that. Furniture and equipment at the high school, it's going to be $1,500 now because we're doing some of that, and it'll jump up to $2,000 in future years. Custodians, again, $850. We're going to continue to replace our mats in our buildings, so we have just been putting $500 down for that every year. Storage in the VOTEC, we're going to paint the VOTEC, but we've got a lot of equipment and stuff that's very old that needs to be tossed. That's going to happen this summer, but then we also need to put some storage in there for the equipment that they are going to keep. So we're going to put $1,500 into storage. There's the other $30,000 for curriculum. That goes from our general fund into our capital fund. Clocks, we're going to continue to replace clocks. It's just one of those ongoing things. It's tough for students and staff if you have clocks that are at different times. So we're going to continue to replace them.
I do have to say on that one, it was like $150 a clock, wasn't it?
It was.
And it turns out they were doing some shopping around because we were all saying, what's the deal with this? And Donnie found something where we're going to be able to replace clocks, and they work with the system. They'll go off.
Yeah, they're synced into the atomic clock, and I can't remember where that's stationed. But, so all these clocks are really set by radio frequencies. It's set toward the atomic clock in the United States, and that will set all these clocks. And they're much cheaper, so we're going to spend $200 to see how they repair the other ones, because the other ones are expensive. They won't tie into our system, but we're hoping they'll still keep accurate time. We will see. Okay. $250 for the phones. Phones they just wear out. So we put $250 every year into replacement of phones. Tractor, we are going to purchase a tractor this year, and what we've been doing is saving up for that over the course of the years. We'll purchase one this year. It's a much faster tractor. It's one of the zero-turn radius tractors. It's probably going to go at least 2 times as fast as our old tractors for mowing grass. It's going to be just for mowing grass. But again, it will save whoever's mowing the grass a considerable amount of time just because of the speed of being able to mow it. So hopefully,
Get a speedy operator too.
might need a speedy operator too, but you can have the speediest operator in the world, and if that tractor's slow, yours is not going any faster. But hopefully this will help with that piece. But as you notice, then later we're starting to save for another tractor for down the road, and we start putting $4,000 away every year for that. A bagger, we need to replace a bagger at this time this year, but then we don't in the future. Tractor maintenance, we still have maintenance costs for that. It's $4,000 a year that we can put it away from that. Sometimes we use it, sometimes we don't. It depends on how the tractors go. And there's the new lawn tractor that we're going to purchase for the $14,900. Snow removal replacement, that's a continued thing for snow removal. That's hard on equipment, things wear down. Scrubber in 17-18, we're going to have to replace one of our scrubbers. And then our vans, although question number 1, we'll purchase vans for the next 5 years. Then we start having vans that will run out again. So we want to start saving some money now for that when we get to the point where we need to have purchase more vans. Okay, the total amount that we're looking at least for this year, there was $389,000 kind of once. And we're going to spend $281,449 for this particular budget. Now, if you go down to the bottom part, if you look at upkeep of fields, flooring and security cameras, that money there, the $10,000 for the upkeep of fields, the $5,500 for the flooring, and the $1,500 for security cameras was put into our budget this year. That question number 1 will take over. So instead of spending our current budget for that, the $42,711 for vans was also put in there. When you add all that up, it comes to $59,000. So instead of spending that is going to go into the reserve fund. So if you take a look at the left-hand side, estimated revenue from next year that we'll get from the state is $242,505. The carryover that we had was $146,000, But if you take a look at carryover, it's really, let's see, if you take a look, carryover on the right-hand side, this year we expected to have $87,000 worth of carryover, but we have the $59,000, and that comes to $146,000 then. So then that's moved to the left side where we have our incoming dollars, $242,000, $146,000 of carryover. That means that for next year we'd have $389,273, of which we budgeted $281,449, and that will leave us, we're overspending by $38,000 for next year, but there's things that we do need to get caught up on, and I'm fine with that. And you look at the carryover then kind of in the middle left, we'll have a carryover of $107,000, so we're still building that carryover slowly, but we're starting to get caught up on some of the things that we need. That's probably more than you ever wanted to know about our 5-year plan.
We spent so many meetings at it, and I think that the board is not happy with everybody too in depth. Other questions? Any comments from the public? Okay. And we'd entertain a motion to approve.
I make a motion we approve the 5-year plan.
A motion by Lou to approve the 5-year plan.
Second.
Second by Cheryl. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Passed. Okay, next, we're on to personnel. A review and consider approval to hire Jerome Bacon, fitness center supervisor for an average of 12 hours per week, effective May 4th, 2015. So moved. I have a motion by Lou and a second by Heidi. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Okay, review and consider termination of Jody Youngkin, paraprofessional, at the end of the 2014-15 school year due to financial restrictions and enrollment.
Now, things do change rapidly, at least at this point. I think we should let our employees know as quickly as we can. That's why we're bringing it to the board at this particular point. But a number of things could change that, from a special ed student coming in to a lot of other needs that we have to look at. But for now, this is our recommendation for this particular staff member.
So moved. Okay, we have a motion to approve by Mark,
I'll second it.
a second by Randy. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Review and consider resolution proposing placing Amy Jo Gaby on unrequested leave of absence by a .201 FTE due to lack of pupils and financial limitations.
This is the first step. We have to come back to the board. Without this first step, you can't do this. There are certain things that we need to do for unrequested leaves. In this particular case, it's really because not enough people enrolled in where the areas that she teaches, and that caused a .2 reduction. That's the reason of it. So we need to follow this. There's certain things that we need to follow. There's a waiting period. She has a right to ask for hearing. But to tell you the truth, we're hoping that we can get the news on the grant as quick as we can. And then you'll most likely see me bring her back for more time. We believe it'll be more than what she had this year, and possibly even could be full-time, depending on the amount that we get for the grant. We believe that we're going to get probably $20,000, which is more than what we're reducing her by. So we'll certainly do that as quick as we can. I just did not want to be in a position where we miss timelines. We don't, for some reason that's unforeseen for us, we don't get the grant. And then we're where we're at with staff members. So it's my intent, although we're asking for unrequested leave, I believe that the board will see me come back to the board and say, if we find out before we have to go through the next step, then I would probably ask that to be taken off the docket. And if we don't do the second step, then it's not an unrequested leave. But at least for now, just keep our timelines. This is something that I feel like we need to do now.
So because of what, can you
There were, example, if you have a section and only 5 people register for that section, that would be hard for us to say we're going to have a section with just 5 students in it. So at that point, we don't have that section. And then it becomes a tenure issue in certifications. If that teacher can bump somebody else in a different thing, then there's a whole kind of domino type of thing that takes place. There is nobody below this particular staff member for that section that could teach it or that she could bump into. So it ends up that at the end of the piece, that instructor is there. But it was just not enough students to add another section there. That's as simple as it was.
Is this grant just for certain educational classes?
There's no certifications that we have to do. We do believe that this instructor is more than capable of doing what we're looking at doing. The grant is really in place. It's a 1-year grant. That's one of the downsides to it. But we never know what's going to happen the next year, so we take it a year at a time. It's really intended to help students before they get moved to special ed. So it's the type of just a support type of thing that hopefully catch them and not have to move them into a special ed program in order to do it. But it's a 1-year grant. We believe the staff member will be more than capable of doing that. In fact, we believe she'd be a good fit for it. She's, part of what she does is ELL, which fits right into helping average students catch up, so we think it's a good fit. So we're going to recommend that staff member comes back under those circumstances once we're sure we're going to get the grant.
Other questions?
It's just when you do this, it's just a ugly thing. I don't have any other way of describing it, but I believe that in order for timelines, again, we need to do this with hope everything else falls in place that we're hoping for.
So we're looking for a motion to approve. I'll make that motion.
And again, this is the first step.
Actually, make a motion that for the resolution proposing placing Amy Jo Gavey on that. I guess it.
I'll second
Do
it.
that. Second by Randy. Any further discussion? Okay, Linda? Oh, aye.
Bruce,
Aye.
Cheryl,
Aye.
Helen, aye. Mark,
Aye.
Randy,
Aye.
Heidi, aye.
Okay. It's passed. Then we have the addition, which was review and consider the approval of resignation from Kirk Ottman, maintenance effective May 15th, 2015.
He's done a fantastic job for us. It really comes down to that he's found a higher paying job.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we approve.
Second.
Second by Cheryl. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Okay, then we're on informational reports. See them in the first one, facilities and equipment meeting. That'll be real short because we went over everything, but really what happened is us who are sitting on the facilities committee, especially Lou for a lot longer than myself, we kept on kicking the can down the road on a whole bunch of maintenance things that we knew if we didn't get on top of them, were gonna cost us a ton of money. And I think we made a good way on catching up, but Lou comes to us with a history of information on what has happened in the past, so it was really pretty fun. That's it for my report. I don't have to.
Yeah, no, I think for the first time we were able to get a lot more done that we had hoped to get done in the past. Because in the past, remember that all of our computers came out of capital? So that whole rotation came out of capital, a number of other things came out of capital. And in the end, we just didn't have a lot of money to do the things that we needed to do.
Okay. Next, administration meeting report.
Just a few quick things. I did have the the business manager from St. Cloud come out and take a look at our district office and how we're doing things. He did come out with some recommendations. I think rather than discuss it this time, I'm going to send that to you and I'll bring some of those forward at the next meeting. We'll talk a little bit more during one of my reports on what his recommendations are. there are certainly some things that he thinks we can do to save money. But I'd like you to kind of get an idea for that before we have a discussion. So it's just to let you know. I also have Penny coming in, and she is the food service director at Recording Albany. She comes in on the 30th, Thursday, to take a look at our food service. Again, it wasn't to catch and say, gotcha. It's to look at it and say, hey, you're doing these things well, and Kevin, when he came in, said, there's a lot of things you're doing well, these are some things that you should look at. And I'll bring those forward, and if Penny sees the same thing, we'll have discussions, what are we doing well, but are there some things we can change to make us more effective and productive?
Now,
So,
is she coming one day or?
It depends. Right now, we are paying her $30 an hour.
Okay.
She's gonna start with one day, see what we find, and then we'll determine where we go from there. Kevin came in for one day for a fee. But because we're not quite sure with Penny, she wants to observe all of our lunch lines. Hard to do that at both places at the same time, so we may have to bring her back for one more day.
And each day is different too. I mean, you have different.
Oh, absolutely. And again, we're not looking at gotcha. That really isn't the purpose of this. It's to look at how we function and are there things that we can do better. From either purchasing, the paperwork, to how we do what we do. So that's really the purpose of it. And I've assured my cooks that it's not to say you're not doing your job. It's to look at how we're doing things. Okay. We're still working on our quotes for things, for carpet and those kind of things. I have a meeting next week with the HVAC people that we're working with to finally put in a plan together on exactly what and how we're going to get fixed for the HVAC. So I'll bring a report of that back to the board too once we get that, have that meeting next week. Okay, still working on transportation contract. Just an update, we're very close, but we want to make sure that we're all on the same page, and we've had a little bit of trouble getting all pieces to talk to each other at this point, but I'm very comfortable where we're at right now. I think we'll get any of the issues that we have resolved, but we want to make sure that there is no misunderstanding. And again, we have revamped the whole contract. We built the contract on the state's model policy, which when you do that, there's a lot of concerns about language, what does it mean, all that kind of things, and that's what we're trying to ensure that we all know what we're all talking about. But
Now,
it's
when you
good.
get that together, like you're talking, are we going to meet one more time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we'll have Chuck with us at that
No,
time.
no, but
We're just go over the contract, we'll explain everything, we'll go over. Yes, I won't bring it to the board before I have our transportation committee meet one more time.
Okay.
Calendar, I don't think the state's gonna, I don't know if the state's gonna do anything. This is where I'm at with the calendar, and certainly I'd like to get direction. I'm bringing our after Labor Day start to the board at the next meeting. I think that we've got a lot of parents asking questions and doing that. I think if the state comes out and says, we're gonna change it, then I'll bring that report. I'll say, does the board want me to bring another calendar forward? Will that cause more issues than it solves? It's really only for us 3 days that we're looking at, so we'll probably go into June for 3 days, and that would be it. So, but I am gonna bring the calendar. I don't think we can wait any longer. I kept hoping that legislatures would actually make a decision on this, and apparently they're just hoping that the whole issue will go away. So I will bring that back. As far as the stadium, I hope to show you a clip. I'll show you next week, because we can't get sound, and I think that you want the sound there. Wilmer Tripp put together a really nice clip on that I think is the community would like to see. In the meantime, if you want to go to the trip, it's there. But I'll bring it to the board and we'll play it. It's about a 9-minute clip, but I think it'd be a nice clip for our community to see. It really shows off the stadium without you having to go there. Just a few things. We do have a letter of occupancy. I thought that was important. I know that people wanted to use the stadium, but there's certainly liabilities that we have to look at, but that's all taken care of. And thanks to all the people, Bruce and Chris, staying. They just did an outstanding job on getting that facility, getting things done. I know that John gets some accolades there too. Beautiful bathroom that he's put together. We have a few finishing things that we have to get done, but nothing that we can't have occupancy at the same time that we're finishing. The same thing with our concession stand, although even right now, we're virtually able to sell everything that we wanted to sell. But if we want to sell grill hot dogs or hamburgers, that type of stuff, there's a few more things that we have to get done. I think last time I checked, there's only 2 things that we have to finish, and then we'll have that ready. So that's come a long way, so we're in good shape there. We had our first game over the weekend. My understanding is, although we started with pretty wet fields, by the time noon came, everything went really well, and just a beautiful facility. Can't say enough. As far as the, you have to get it, the wall of honor, but there's a word, what do we call it? The legacy wall, thank you. There's a few questions that I have from Gretchen, who's working on that. Right now, we decided that Mark is going to be our person. I guess this is what I'm going to ask, and this is my suggestion. There are pieces that are getting finished. Okay, now one option would be to wait for them to bring everything back to the board and show the whole board and say, is it okay? There's a time piece that we're really trying to get to all this done, so if we do it that way, it will take a lot more time. I would suggest to the board that we just let Mark take a look at it, so Gretchen can show Mark. Mark says, yep, everything looks good. And then maybe we bring everything back to the board, but at that point, it'll be too late, everything will be finished. But I think to make our timelines and stuff, I would suggest that we just let Mark be the deciding factor for the board on this.
Sounds good.
And make that decision, so that we can get everything done that we need to get done. Because they have to design it, but then it still has to be carved, and you know, there's a money aspect to it too, if you have to go back and forth too many times. So I would just suggest that we let Mark make the decision and then have them come back when it's all said and done. Kind of show the whole board those pieces, and if we can get additional pieces or examples, we can show the board in between, but just to save time, I would suggest that. So if it's all right with the board,
Yep.
we will vote on that vote. I think that's all I have.
Okay. Do we have anything else that anybody has on?
Where are we at with, you know, the facilities itself? Where is that going to?
I'm in a process, in fact, I just haven't gotten to it. We're going to set up another meeting with that to restart the discussion on that. In fact, I'm in contact with the architect that kind of helped us, and also Ari Morton. They want to be involved in that and continue that discussion. And over the winter, I think we were missing a few of our people that are in the facility group, so I'll send out an invite. We'll post it like we post all our other meetings, and we'll start the discussion again. I'd like to do that either, probably the first part of May, I'm guessing.
Okay. Other comments from anybody? Thoughts?
Motion to adjourn?
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
And a second from Cheryl. Motion was by Luke. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no.
One's on right now.